Hey Brandon, it's me Zach again, and I'm back here with another video to help you improve as a Pokemon player with your Pikachu Zekrom GX deck. So in this video, we're going to be going over a deck profile of a deck that I know that I've seen you play against when we go screen share on PTCGO, and I know you played against this Beheeyem deck. I've actually seen you get super frustrated against this deck, and that's okay. Mysterious Noise is a very frustrating attack to deal with. If you don't remember exactly what Beheeyem does, for a triple colorless energy, they go shuffle this Pokemon and all cards attached to it into the deck. Your opponent can't play any item cards from your hand during your next turn. So you can't play your Electromagnetic Radar, Energy Switch, Electro Power, you can't play a Skateboard. There's a lot of items that you play in your deck, and not being able to play them absolutely is not fun. It's bad. You really want to be playing the cards that you put in your deck. This deck's trying to prevent you from doing that. So it's one of those things where I wanted to specifically go over this deck with you, even if you don't end up playing it at a League Challenge, a League Cup, or any other event that you decide to go to. It's a good idea to know what to do against decks like this, and just formulate a strategy in order to beat them. So we've already gone ahead and filmed, so the next video that you're going to see after this will show you exactly how to beat it, but here I'll explain it and I'll show you exactly what this list looks like. One of the key strategies in Pokemon is knowing everything you can about your opponent's deck, because it allows you to feel comfortable, so when your opponent plays a card, you're like, oh, I know what that does. And I know that you're learning so much about Pokemon, and you know what a lot of these cards do, but we'll look at this deck as a whole, see exactly what it looks like. You can see it right here. So we'll start off with the strategy of this deck. So they want to use Mysterious Noise, and they only play 4 energies. They play 4 triple acceleration energies. You can only attach them to evolution Pokemon, and it provides 3 colorless energies. It gets discarded at the end of the turn. But with their deck, they actually don't discard the energy. They shuffle it back in with Mysterious Noise. So it's one of those things where they can use Mysterious Noise, send up a Pokemon, have another Elgyem down, which is the little form of this, evolve it into a Beheeyem, and use Mysterious Noise every single turn. And not only can you not play item cards with this deck, they're going to send up pesky Pokemon as well. The Pokemon that they send up are going to be Goomy, so its Sticky Membrane will make your Pokemon's attacks cost 1 more energy. So your Pikachu Zekrom, Full Blitz, instead of being 3 energies normally, is going to cost 4 energies. So Sticky Membrane, I know it can be upsetting to play against that, but that's what your opponent's going to send up. Or if they think you're going to be sending up a GX Pokemon to attack with, they'll send up an Alolan Ninetales with Luminous Barrier. So it's one of those things where they're going to use Luminous Barrier, and your Alolan Raichu, Raichu GX, and Pikachu Zekrom, and Dedenne, and Zorora cannot attack and get through the Luminous Barrier. So that's one of the things that makes it incredibly difficult to play against. You can't play items, and you can't get rid of their stuff. So what exactly can you do against this matchup? Well, I'll explain that to you in a little bit. Let's overview the entire deck first, and I'll tell you exactly what my strategy is against this. Okay, so they got a Ditto Prism Star, and Ditto Prism Star, you can evolve any Pokemon from it, as long as it's a Stage 1 Pokemon card. So the Stage 1 Pokemon cards that they play are the Alolan Ninetales, that's going to stop your GX Pokemon from attacking, the Beheeyem, so they can use it as an extra Elgyem to get Mysterious Noise all powered up, and Pidgeotto, which they use as an engine to draw cards. So the same way that you use Jirachi to get good cards out of your deck, they are going to use Pidgeotto for airmail. Next up on the list, we got Pidgey. So Pidgey is to evolve into Pidgeotto, and this just seems to be the Pidgey that has more HP. There is another Pidgey that they could be playing, the one with Collect, but it has 10 less HP. So that's the only reason why they play the one with Quick Attack. Next up here, we got Pidgeotto with Airmail. So again, once during their turn, they get to look at the top 2 cards of their deck and put one of them into their hand. This is important for them to get out because they have Beheeyem that they shuffle back into their deck. So they want to draw the pieces of Beheeyem, whether it's an Elgin, Beheeyem, or a triple acceleration energy, to make sure that they can use Mysterious Noise every single turn of the game. They have Goomy with its sticky membrane, so as long as it's their active Pokemon, your attacks cost one colorless more. Doesn't matter any Pokemon, GX, not GX, Zapdos, anything like that, it costs one more. We don't have any way to shut off sticky membrane, so maybe a good strategy to get past a Goomy would be to utilize Thunder Mountain Prism Star, or use Energy Switch, or use Tag Switch to move an extra energy to the Pokemon you want to attack with. All of your Pokemon can attack Goomy, even your GXs, your normal Pokemon. You just need an extra energy to attack. Then they have Elgin. They can attack with Psybeam. This Pokemon is only in their deck to evolve into Beheeyem, so that Beheeyem can use Mysterious Noise every single turn. And they're always going to have another couple Elgyms or Ditto Prism Star on their bench, so they can always shuffle them back in with Mysterious Noise and attack with Mysterious Noise and attack with Mysterious Noise. The deck is kind of the same thing every single turn. They're going to use Mysterious Noise, send up a Pokemon that you don't want to deal with at all, and just try to knock out your Pokemon over time. They have other cards that can do more damage throughout the game. We'll get over those in a little bit. They have Alolan Vulpix, and they play this one because if you have any fairy Pokemon in play, like Alolan Ninetales, this Pokemon has a free retreat cost. There is another Alolan Vulpix that they could play, the one with Roar, but that one's less common in this deck. So I'd be expecting this one, but maybe your opponent will play Roar, and they can switch their active Pokemon with one of their bench Pokemon. If they were to use Roar against you, you are the one who gets to choose who you could bring up. And again, this Pokemon is to block your Pikachu Zekrom GX, your Raichu Alolan Raichu GX, your Zorora GX, and your Dedenne GX from attacking the Alolan Ninetales. You could always use Custom Catcher to get around this, or you could attack it with a Zapdos. Something you'll see that's surprising in the video that follows this, where we actually play out this matchup of Pikachu Zekrom against Beheeyem, I used Tapu Koko Prism Star to attack the Alolan Ninetales. So Tapu Koko Prism Star, you normally use it to use Dance of the Ancients to power up energy onto your board, but it's one of the only two Pokemon that you have that can knock out an Alolan Ninetales. You want to be using that Pokemon instead of a Zapdos because you can't play Electro Power, and Mach Bolt does enough to knock out the Alolan Ninetales. Jumping into the first trainer card that they play in their deck, they have Acrobike. So you get to look at the top two cards of your deck, put one of them into your hand, and discard the other card. This is to help them when they shuffle the Beheeyem away with Mysterious Noise, in the same kind of strategy as Airmail, to search out their cards turn after turn after turn. So similar to how you play cards like Electromagnetic Radar and stuff like that to get out your stuff, they're going to play Acrobikes and other themed cards for their deck to get out their cards. Next up on the list is Mysterious Treasure. So they can discard a card from their hands, and they just want to discard cards that they won't need for the rest of the game or a particular matchup to search for a dragon or a psychic type Pokemon. They can only search out Goomy, Elgin, and Beheeyem with that card. And one thing that you might notice is that this deck doesn't play Mew. And the Mew that I'm talking about is this Mew with Bench Barrier, so you can tag bolt them as well. They can't search it out at all because they don't play it in this deck. They don't think that they need it. I kind of think they might. They have Pokegear 3.0. This might be another card that you're familiar with, to look at the top 7 cards of their deck and grab one of their supporter cards. The supporter cards that they play in this deck are Copycat, Cynthia, Lily, and Professor Elm's Lecture. Oh, and they play Tate and Liza too. So they're going to use those to set up as quickly as possible. Hopefully they grab them, or I guess in your case, if you're playing against this deck, we hope that your opponent does not have very good draws. They have Pokemon Communication, so they can grab a Pokemon card from their hands, any of them, and this is a card that you actually play in your deck too, so you should be familiar with it. They can grab any Pokemon that they have in their hands, so any of these Pokemon, and they can grab any Pokemon out of their deck. So sometimes they might not have the right Pokemon in their deck or in their hand, and they just want to swap it out with another one. That's what Pokemon communication is used for. Next up, we got Reset Stamp. So on top of all these things, even if you start drawing prize cards because you attacked with Tapu Koko Prism Star, Zapdos, attack with full Blitz, they can reset stamp you to bring you to a low amount of cards in your hand. And with you not being able to play item cards because of Beheeyem's mysterious noise, they're going to try to hope that you draw into some of your item cards like an electromagnetic radar so you can't play it at all. That's why they play Reset Stamp. They also play Blizzard Town, so if this deck wasn't annoying enough, Pokemon with 40 HP or less can't attack. So in your deck, you play Lysander Labs, and you play Thunder Mountain Prism Star as your counter stadiums. If you have a Pokemon with 40 HP or less, so let's say you knocked out an Alolan Ninetales with a Tapu Koko Prism Star, they hit you with Mysterious Noise to leave you with 40 HP left, you would not be able to attack them because of Blizzard Town. You want to play one of your stadiums in play, either a Lysander Labs or your Thunder Mountain Prism Star, so that you are able to attack. Or you could always retreat into another one of your Pokemon and get an attack off. So maybe that would be a great time to use Pikachu's Full Blitz and get ready for a Tag Bolt GX. Next up, they have Shrine of Punishments. So I know personally, when you've played against this card, you've been frustrated because your deck is very much GX based. You got your Dedenne GX, your Pikachu Zekrom GX, your Raichu and Alolan Raichu GX, and your Zorora GX, and they take damage counters in between turns. For the same reason that we want to be saving stadiums to be using against Blizzard Town, we want to be saving stadiums to be using against Shrine of Punishment. So I guess the overall strategy here that I'm trying to explain is don't play a stadium card first unless you absolutely have to. That includes your Thunder Mountain Prism Star. You can always use that card to bump off one of their two stadiums. Once you get rid of their Shrine of Punishment and their Blizzard Town, which they only play one copy of each, you can always be safe and know that they're not going to be able to get those stadiums back. Moving into another card that helps support their deck is Copycat. So they shuffle their hand into their deck and draw a card for each card in your opponent's hand. So that would be your hand. So one of the strategies that you can use to get past Copycat so they can't draw as many cards as they want, you can always discard cards from your hand if you have that option to, and keep a small hand. So think about the cards in your hand that aren't important, that you don't need at the time. If you only have 3 cards in your hand, if your opponent uses Copycat, they're shuffling their hand into their deck to only draw 3 cards. One of the main draw supporters for their deck is Cynthia. It's a simple shuffle your hand into your deck and drawing 6 cards. That's not bad at all because they're just going to be doing a simple shuffle and draw. There's nothing we can do to stop them from playing a supporter at all. Lily, they play a couple copies of this for the first turn, so they can draw cards until they have 6 in their hand, and if it's their first turn, they can draw cards until they have 8 in their hand. Again, these are supporters. They're merely cards only to help your opponent set up this deck turn after turn. This is probably the main supporter of what your opponent wants to play on the first turn. So they could search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon with 60 HP or less. Those Pokemon would be Ditto, Pidgey, Pidgeotto, Goomy, Elgyem, and Alolan Vulpix. So they could search out every Pokemon in their deck except for Beheeyem and Alolan Ninetales, and they can get set up very quickly. Be careful and notice what your opponent's actually grabbing from Professor Elm's lecture, because maybe they'll accidentally grab a Beheeyem or an Alolan Ninetales. Or you could start formulating your plan. If they get out a Vulpix, they might have an Alolan Ninetales in their hands. So just something to think about when you're playing the game is just thinking about what your opponent has in their hand. What is their plan to win the game? They also have Tate and Liza, which works a couple ways. You get to choose one, shuffle your hand into your deck, and draw 5 cards, or switch your active Pokemon with their bench Pokemon. If they have a Pokemon like Alolan Ninetales stuck in the active position and they can't retreat it because they only play 4 triple acceleration energies, they might want to use Tantaliza to switch an Alola Ninetales into a Beheeyem. Make sure that your opponent doesn't do both because they can only choose one for this card. Next up is U-turn board. So the retreat cost of the Pokemon that's attached to is colorless less. If this card's discarded from play, your opponent puts it back into their hands. You can always shut this card off with the Lysander Labs that you have in your deck. Now, you want to be very careful when you're playing against this deck because your Lysander Labs will also shut off your escape board. So if you're playing a Lysander Labs, make sure you don't need to retreat with your escape board first. But it will shut off all of your opponent's U-turn boards that they have on their Pokemon, and they do like attaching them to their Alolan Ninetales and to their Goomy. And last up is triple acceleration energy, where it can only be attached to evolution Pokemon, and it provides triple colorless energy. Basically, the only thing that you're going to be using it is when they're using Beheeyem's Mysterious Noise every single turn. So we've gone over every single card in this deck. So just look at the list for a second and kind of soak it in, realize what this deck has to offer. So when you're playing against it, you're like, oh, I know what all of these cards do. And as always, I can answer questions during our next coaching session. If you have any questions about this deck, or if you're considering playing this deck, or if you want to know if this deck is good, or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me. I'd love to discuss more about this with you. So you see exactly where this deck is, and you want to come up with a strategy in order to beat it. How do you beat this deck? Well, as I said, they're going to be using Mysterious Noise, so you can't rely on your item cards. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they can attack with Mysterious Noise on the first turn. They can only use Mysterious Noise as early as turn 2, and that's if they have everything all prepared for it. With a triple acceleration energy, the Elgyem, another Elgyem on the bench, stuff like that. Try to use your item cards early on in the game, because you won't be able to use them later on in the game when your opponent's using Mysterious Noise every single turn. What I like to do in this matchup, I like to power up my Pikachu Zekrom GX very quickly, and I like to go full blitz. If full blitz is able to get a knockout on any of their Pokemon, that is amazing. And remember, watch out for things like Goomy that cost an extra energy, or things like Alolan Ninetales that will stop the damage from being done to the Alolan Ninetales. You can always custom catcher around one of these Pokemon and bring up a different Pokemon to knock out. Now, depending if my opponent has a Ditto, or an Alolan Vulpix, or an Alolan Ninetales out in play, I like to either attach the energies to my Pikachu Zekrom GX or my Tapu Koko Prism Star. I need to get my Tapu Koko Prism Star out there, ready to use Mach Bolt to knock out Alolan Ninetales very quickly. And their deck, it doesn't do a lot of damage. It's just doing 90 damage at a time, so they actually have to attack Pikachu Zekrom 4 times in a row. So basically I go full blitz to draw 1 prize card, and I'll attack with my Tapu Koko Prism Star. So if I powered that up with the full blitz, I'm going to knock out an Alolan Ninetales, so that's my second prize card. They're going to hit me with Mysterious Noise for 90 damage. Then I attack with full blitz for my third prize card, powering up to my Pikachu Zekrom. And then they're going to attack me with this Mysterious Noise, so I'm at 180 damage. Then I'm going to go Tag Bolt GX, knock out 2 Pokemon, so that's prize card number 4 and 5. And then that's fine if they knock out the Pikachu Zekrom at that point. I have my Tapu Koko Prism Star that's available to attack for 120 damage. And 120 damage can knock out Ditto, Pidgey, Pidgeotto, Goomy, Elgyem, Beheeyem, Alolan Vulpix, or Alolan Ninetales. So that's my plan to draw all 6 of my prize cards every single time when I sit across this deck. If you don't do that strategy, this matchup can absolutely be a mess sometimes, and it's quite often that you'll just lose. So again, you want to go full blitz, power up a Tapu Koko, attack with Tapu Koko, use full blitz powering up your Pikachu Zekrom, Use Tag Bolt GX, knocking out 2 Pokemon, so that's 5 prize cards you've drawn so far, and then attack with Mach Bolt with your Tapu Koko Prism Star again. So that's exactly how you're able to win this matchup. It's not that bad. You just got to watch out for things like Blizzard Town, Shrine of Punishment, Reset Stamp, and if you're playing in tournaments, you got to watch out for Mysterious Noise so that you're not playing items, Luminous Barrier that blocks GX Pokemon from attacking, the Ninetales that is, you could still use your attack, and you got to watch out for Sticky Membrane. Everything else in the deck is just a Pokemon that helps your opponent set up. So those are my general strategies against the deck. I hope that you enjoyed it. I feel like this deck is definitely one of those things that you might not see too many of, but you might run into them on the PTCGO versus ladder. So the biggest thing that I can say is think about what your options are when you're playing out the game. Look exactly and see what's available in this list. There's not too many other techs that your opponent can play in this deck. This is pretty much exactly the list that everyone's going to be playing if you run against a Beheeyem. And this is based off one of the best players in the game, Hampus Eriksson. This is the list that he used to go undefeated day 1 of Worlds, and he did pretty well day 2 of Worlds as well. So this is the list that most people are going to be playing. Feel free to check it out, and if you ever run into it, remember, I have this video that explains all the strategies, and in the next video that I'm going to show you, if you watch it, we have Pikachu Zekrom, your exact list versus this exact list. So you can see exactly what I'm talking about, how I planned out every single turn, and I knocked it out differently. It's not the same way that you'd normally play Pikachu Zekrom every single game, so I would 100% recommend that you look out for it. And as always, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me during our next coaching session. Anything, maybe you're like, you didn't understand what I was saying, or maybe you forgot what happened in the next video. I'm always there to lend out a helping hand. So that's going to be it for this video today, Brandon. I hope you enjoyed watching it, and if you run against Beheeyem, best of luck. This deck can be super annoying, but remember, keep your head straight when you're playing this matchup, and then think out every single action that you can be doing. Make sure you're not falling into a trap with Mysterious Noise on this Beheeyem. Make sure that you're not falling into a trap with Luminous Barrier. Make sure you're not falling in a trap with Goomy, and make sure you're not falling into a trap with Blizzard Town. And hold on to your stadiums, your Lysander Labs, and your Thunder Mountain Prism Star to get around Blizzard Town and Shrine of Punishment. Those are the best strategies that you can do. Oh, and Tapu Koko Prism Star is an attacker in this matchup. I know it's so weird, but it's one of the only attackers that you have in this matchup. Super weird, but that's fine. You just got to deal with it. So that's what we got. Watch the next video and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about.